Introduction to medieval knighthood. Medieval knighthood represents a distinct class of warriors in the Middle Ages, typically characterized by their roles as heavily armored cavalry soldiers who owed military service to a lord, frequently in exchange for land. This concept of knighthood extends beyond mere martial prowess. It embodies a code of chivalry which dictated not only battlefield conduct, but also social and moral responsibilities. The journey to becoming a knight was a structured and rigorous process, often beginning in childhood and encompassing years of training, service, and rites of passage. Understanding medieval knighthood is crucial when exploring the topic of how someone became a medieval knight, because it provides the foundational context needed for the intricate societal systems and values of the time. Knighthood was not just about military service. It was deeply tethered to notions of honor, loyalty, and duty, aspects that were integral to the feudal system which dominated medieval Europe. For instance, the process of becoming a knight typically started with young boys serving as pages and then escalated to the role of a squire, where they learned combat skills and social etiquette. Only after proving their capabilities could they partake in a knighting ceremony, such as the one famously bestowed upon William Marshal, celebrated for his loyalty and skill, who rose from the ranks of minor nobility to become the regent of England. Knighthood also had significant implications for medieval society. It was not exclusively conferred based on lineage or wealth, but also on merit and valor. Joan of Arc, though exceptional in her time, exemplifies how martial prowess and leadership could transcend traditional gender and class barriers, eventually leading to her canonization. However, the institution of knighthood was not without its controversies. Critics argue that the noble ideals of chivalry were often overshadowed by knights' involvement in brutal warfare and political machinations. Furthermore, the chivalric code was not uniformly applied, often exploited to justify or obscure less honorable actions. Despite these inconsistencies, the concept of knighthood was intrinsically linked to medieval societal structures, influencing warfare, politics, and cultural norms. The knight's journey underscores the feudal bonds that sustained the hierarchical order of the time and highlights the cultural values and expectations imposed on the medieval warrior class. As such, the exploration of medieval knighthood offers invaluable insights into how individual aspirations were shaped by the overarching demands and philosophies of the Middle Ages. The path to knighthood in the medieval era was a highly structured and traditional process, and the journey from page to squire was a critical phase in this transformation. This journey typically began in a boy's early childhood, around the age of 7, when he would be sent from his family home to a noble household to serve as a page. As a page, the boy was introduced to the fundamentals of chivalry, courtly manners, and basic combat skills. This formative stage emphasized both the physical and cultural education necessary to thrive in noble society. The transition from page to squire, around the age of 14, marked a deeper commitment to the knightly pursuit. As a squire, the young boy served directly under a knight, acting as a personal attendant. This role was significant because it offered practical training in horsemanship, weaponry, and battlefield tactics, while also imparting lessons in loyalty and duty. The squire's responsibilities were not merely trivial. They were designed to prepare him for the economic, social, and martial demands of knighthood. The significance of these stages is that they laid the groundwork for producing capable and honorable knights, who were indispensable to medieval society for both their martial prowess and their roles as local leaders and enforcers of the feudal order. Historically, the apprenticeship model represented by the page and squire stages is exemplified by notable figures like William Marshal, who rose from squire to become one of England's most celebrated knights, emphasizing the effectiveness and importance of this progression. Additionally, jousting tournaments often highlighted the skills acquired during these formative years, as young nobles demonstrated their prowess in front of lords and monarchs, acting as a proving ground for future knighthood. However, this structured path was not without its challenges and controversies. The cost of equipping a knight could be prohibitive. Additionally, jousting tournaments often highlighted the skills acquired during these formative years, as young nobles demonstrated their prowess in front of lords and monarchs, acting as a proving ground for future knighthood. However, this structured path was not without its challenges and controversies. The cost of equipping a knight could be prohibitive, creating financial barriers for families. Moreover, the ethical ideal of chivalry sometimes clashed with the brutal realities of war, revealing a tension between the romanticized values taught to pages and squires and the genuine demands of feudal warfare. Despite these challenges, the role of pages and squires was foundational in shaping not only individual knights, but also the broader cultural identity of knighthood in medieval society. This progression interconnected with other aspects of the medieval world, influencing everything from warfare tactics to courtly behavior and the social hierarchy. The journey from page to squire and ultimately to knight was more than just training. It was a rite of passage that anchored young nobles within the fabric of medieval life, In the journey to becoming a medieval knight, the training and education of a squire were crucial steps in transforming a young boy into a chivalrous warrior. At around the age of 7, a noble boy typically began his path by serving as a page, and by the age of 14, he would be promoted to a squire. This stage was not just about learning martial skills. It encompassed a comprehensive education in the ideals, duties, and culture of knighthood. A squire trained under the guidance of an experienced knight, learning weaponry, horse riding, and jousting, while also grasping the values of courage, honor, and loyalty. Significance of a squire's education lies in the fact that it laid the foundation for what knights were expected to embody, not just as warriors, but as exemplars of chivalric values. This phase instilled discipline, shaped character, and ensured that future knights were well-rounded individuals capable of defending their lord's interests and serving their community. History provides us with vivid examples of squires in action. One notable squire was William Marshal, who served successive English kings and became one of the most celebrated knights of the Middle Ages. His early training as a squire was instrumental in his legendary combat skills and profound understanding of chivalric duties, establishing his reputation across Europe. Another example is Geoffroy de Charny, a French knight who emphasized the squire's role in acquiring the virtues of a true knight, highlighting the demanding nature of their training. Supporters of this system argue that the comprehensive training regimen ensured a stable and effective military force that also upheld societal values. However, challenges existed. The path to knighthood was primarily accessible to the nobility, excluding a large segment of the population. Critics might argue that the rigid hierarchical system reinforced social stratification, with power concentrated in the hands of a few. This stage of training was interconnected with other aspects of a knight's life. The education and discipline instilled during a squire's training would influence their conduct in battle, their interactions within feudal society, and their adherence to the chivalric code. The rigorous training process ensured that by the time these young men were dubbed knights, they were not only skilled fighters, but also ready to uphold the responsibilities of their station. Ultimately, the education of a squire was a transformative period that shaped the knights of the medieval world, influencing their identity and roles within society. The ceremony of knighthood, known as the accolade, was the climactic event in a squire's journey to becoming a medieval knight. This ritual marked the transition from squirehood to knighthood and was rich in symbolism and tradition. The accolade involved a formal ceremony where the aspiring knight would kneel before a lord or monarch, who would then tap the squire on the shoulders with a sword, signifying their new status as a knight. This ritual imbued the new knight with both the social honor and the martial responsibilities that came with the title. Significance of the accolade in the process of becoming a knight lies in its role as a rite of passage. It was not merely a formal recognition, but an essential societal affirmation of a squire's readiness to adopt the duties of chivalry, including the protection of the weak, defense of the faith, and loyalty to one's liege lord. This ceremony was crucial for maintaining the rigid social structures of medieval society, where knight was not merely a formal recognition, but an essential societal affirmation of a squire's readiness to adopt the duties of chivalry, including the protection of the weak, defense of the faith, and loyalty to one's liege lord. This ceremony was crucial for maintaining the rigid social structures of medieval society, where knights were not just warriors, but also symbols of moral and social order. Historically, the accolade could take place in various contexts, such as during a grand public event or a private ceremony. For instance, the famed English king Richard the Lionheart is known to have been knighted by the King of France in a grand ceremony, cementing his status among the elite warrior class. Similarly, in literary tradition, the legendary King Arthur was said to have knighted Sir Lancelot in a ceremonial fashion, showcasing the accolade's cultural significance. Some medieval commentators, like the chronicler Jean Froissart, praised the chivalric values reinforced by the accolade, viewing knighthood as the epitome of noble conduct. However, there were challenges and controversies associated with the accolade. Critics argued that by the late Middle Ages,